wondered why suicide is such a major issue in countries like Guyana. And I often wonder what would propel people to take such a drastic step in their life. We may never know, but today we're fortunate to have a guest on Let's Talk with Lakshmi, Mr. Anand Budram, who is one of the co-founders of the Caribbean Voice, whose major goal right now is to help people in the suicide epidemic which is hitting Guyana currently. Anand, welcome to Let's Talk with Lakshmi. It's indeed a pleasure and honor to have you on set. Would you please tell our viewers a little bit about yourself?
Thank you, Lakshmi. I'm somebody who's pottered around and done a lot of different stuff, but essentially I'm an educator, and I've been involved in a lot of different social and community stuff over the years. I got to suicide prevention for a number of reasons, which we may go into later on.
Now, it's very interesting that CNN just rated Guyana the #1 country in the world with the highest rate of suicide. I mean, what drives people to take such a drastic step, would you say?
Well, it's a complex set of issues, really, and the World Health Organization, which actually put out that memo, did identify some of them. But the reality is that what drives suicide differs in some way from society to society. And there's a survey that was done by a student from Holland, commissioned by the Guyana Foundation, which is an NGO in Guyana, and the results were released yesterday. Everything she said we had already inferred to our own processes, but one of the major things is a lack of coping skills. Okay. People don't seem to be able to deal with problems in the way that they should, and therefore, instead of being a last resort, suicide becomes just another alternative.
Now, Anand, you're saying they don't have proper coping skills. What exactly are these people coping with? What are some of the major issues causing suicide?
Okay. Dysfunctional family relationships.
Let's talk about that. Dysfunctional family relationships. Are we talking about divorces, or what exactly are we talking about?
We're talking about a number of things. We're talking about the prevalence of domestic violence, which is a huge problem in Guyana, and which is driven by alcoholism. We're talking about teenagers getting involved in sexual relations and intimacy, and oftentimes becoming pregnant. We're talking about a spiraling use of drugs. We're talking about an inability, well, rather a lack of empathetic communication skills. So that simple issues that can be addressed if the communication is correct are not addressed, and as a result, instead of a coming together, there's an alienation, there's a separation, and then the choice of suicide comes into play. We're talking about poverty to some extent. We're talking about a social landscape that is deformed in so many ways. It's a lot of stuff.
It's a lot of things. Now, it's interesting that we're saying that Guyana is the #1 country in the world. Do you think it's something with ethnicity? I mean, why is this hitting the Indian population so much?
Well, probably 10, 15, 20 years ago, it might have been essentially an Indian issue. Okay. But there is something called the Werther effect, which is the name they give to the concept of copycatting. Suicide has spread across ethnicity in Guyana significantly, even though the major group still is Indian, because of this copycatting effect. Also, the reality is that while more Indians may end up committing suicide, if you spread it over attempted suicides, the disparity is less, because there are more attempts in the other groups, especially the Amerindians. And also in the Amerindian communities, suicide is vastly underreported. So that when you factor in all of these issues, it would seem like the vast majority of Indians are committing suicide. But if everything was to be factored in, the reality is that it would probably be like 6 out of every 10 for Indians.
It's a very high number. What are you doing to combat this issue?
Well, we launched our campaign under the theme, suicide prevention is everybody's responsibility. The Minister of Health, Dr. Barry Ramsrand, had mentioned last year that he's seeking a multi-sectorial approach to suicide prevention. And we thought that was an excellent idea. Right. So one of the things we did immediately when we launched was to reach out. Right now we have 20 businesses and organizations that are our strategic partners, both here and in Guyana. We've got a number of people that are spokespersons like yourself and Terry Gadraj. We've been speaking to various government ministries. We already had a discussion with Minister of Youth and Tourism, Dr. Anthony. We're right now in touch with Minister of Education, Minister of Human Resource. And the whole idea is that if you can pool the resources, you can maximize the efforts, and you can stretch the cost value of the dollar. At the same time, you get a picture of what's happening nationally, so that you'll be able to plug in the gaps and make suicide prevention a national issue with this kind of approach. And what are the things we're doing? We're planning a national stakeholders conference next summer. We're doing monthly outreaches to different communities. We're going to be starting training programs from December. We're setting up billboards starting either later this year or early next year in every district. We're going to be doing walks and rallies. We're trying to get the Ministry of Education to have the school students nationally come out once or twice a year, do placards and rallies, and a lot of other stuff, too numerous to mention. So our approach is it's a lot of different things. It's it's integrated, and it's aimed at reaching into every segment of the community.
Wonderful. Now, Caribbean Voice, I know you're based in New York City. Tell me about the people who are part of Caribbean Voice. Where are they really based at? Because for someone living in New York City to go back home to touch upon such a major issue, how are you working from New York City to Guyana?
Well, we, again, because of our approach that it's everybody's business and of getting other people and entities involved, we have a core group set up in Guyana. So we plan with them, we provide the resources, they do the execution, and they do it in collaboration with our strategic partners down there. For example, we're doing a national essay competition in collaboration with the Guyana Teachers Union. When we do the outreaches, the councils will be provided by Guyana Psychological Association. We've reached out to the Indian Arrival Committee, we've reached out to Reverend Gilbert, who heads the National Commission for the Family. So all of these entities are involved with us in everything that we do. And so you share what you have, and you make whatever you're doing more effective as a result. So we don't have to be there for all this stuff to be done.
Right. Well, it's great that you're making such wonderful collaborations and liaisons all around the world. I know you have 2 guests from other organizations right here in New York City. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a break, and when we come back on, we'll bring these other guests on with us.
Okay.
2 months ago, after my mother's hospitalization, the doctors wanted to put her in hospice. And I'm like, you know, they deemed her terminal. And I saw Mr. Thakur, I think the founder, on TV, and he was advertising this Indian community in Kings Harbor. It's a great Indian community where my mother feels at home, and she expresses her happiness to me whenever I come.
I know when I come I feel happy. I stay a couple days and I see everybody, and I'm so happy.
I brought my mother here like a month and a half ago, and I haven't regretted my decision. It's one of the best decisions I've made for my mother. It's a home away from home.
Elegant Floral Design. We can help you beautify your event. No occasion is too big or too small. We specialize in floral decor and party planning for every event. Please call 718-322-9786. Please use promo code Lakshmi for a discount. Nanking chain of restaurants serves a large variety of Chinese, Thai, and Indian cuisine, prepared by seasoned chefs and experienced professionals. Check out one of Nanking's newest restaurants at 134-07 Rockaway Boulevard, South Ozone Park, New York. Nanking proudly serves halal meats, vegetarian, non-vegetarian, and seafood delicacies. Nanking Restaurants caters to private and corporate events for all occasions in their restaurants and banquet halls. Nanking Restaurants, a chain of restaurants which are also conveniently located in South Plainfield, New Jersey, Jersey City, New Jersey, Iceland, New Jersey, New York, New York, Atlantic City, New Jersey, New Hyde Park, Long Island, and the grand opening of their newest location at 134-07 Rockaway Boulevard, South Ozone Park, New York. Reserve your table today at 718-323-3555. That's 718-323-3555. For more information, visit nankingrestaurantgroup.com.
Welcome back, viewers. We are here with Mr. Anand Budram from the Caribbean Voice, where we are talking about the suicide epidemic in Guyana. Yes, guys, Guyana is rated the #1 country in the world with the highest rate of suicide. Joining us now from break is the beautiful Imita Kilawan from the Sadhana organization, and of course, our spiritual leader, Pandit Sugrim from the Humanitarian Mission of New Jersey, Arya Samaj. Guys, welcome to Let's Talk with Lakshmi. Thank you so much for coming on set to talk about this very serious and major issue hitting the world.
Thank you, Lakshmi.
Now, Amita, tell me, what role would you and Sadhana be playing in the Caribbean Voice?
Sure. So to give you a little bit of background on Sadhana and our overall overarching mission, what we would like to do as a Hindu organization is promote progressive Hindu ideals and have them intersect with those in social justice. And part of social justice is empowering humanity as a whole, as a cohesive whole. So for our purposes, we would like to partner with Caribbean Voice, participate in their conference, which will be planned for next year, and play an active role because, as Anand said, suicide is everybody's business. It's not just relegated to those in Guyana, but also here, and we want to lend a helping hand.
Wonderful. And Pandit Sugrim, tell me, what role would you guys be playing?
Well, I would like to endorse Sadhana. Again, as I said, suicide is everybody's business, and it's something for us to address as a community. Collectively, we can make a difference. Currently in Guyana and around the world, suicide has been, an epidemic has been destroying and rocking family foundation at the national level. And for us to come together to address the issues, it takes more than one group to come together collectively. However, suicide in Guyana, and we can talk about suicide at the length, and we will not find all the answers pertaining to suicide, but as groups coming together, showing oneness and solidarity, and joining hands and shoulders together, I think we can tackle the epidemic from a very strong point of view.
Great. Now, let me ask you, Pandit Sugrim, you are a Pandit, a spiritual leader. What role should our spiritual leaders play in the community when it comes to suicide?
Truly speaking, I think, and I want to be very verbal, that I have donned the robe of a Pandit. Truly to serve humanity. I have been working in Guyana since 2005 to the current time. One of the major issues in Guyana, and even here, that most of our spiritual leaders are failing from our responsibilities of nurturing our community. As spiritual leaders, we have a social obligation, not only the religious obligation to our community, but more so the social issues which have been clogging our community at the national level. And I think as Hindu leaders, we need to come together to take a strong look as to how can we take back our community. There are so many issues that has been destroying family foundation, not only in Guyana, but also right here in New York City. Most of our spiritual leaders, we focus on the mandirs and the rituals and the pujas and the jandis and the kata, which is very, very important, but we have more social issues. And if we talk about comparison of Christianity and Islam and the amount of work they have been doing for the social awareness of their organization, their people and their community, it is humongous. And I do hope that we as Indian Hindu leaders would look at the bigger picture. How do we curb our society back to where it belongs? I just came from Guyana, and any functions you go to in Guyana, everybody's talking Christianity has been taking our people. Christianity and conversion is in the high rise in Guyana. But the missionaries within Christianity, they work. They talk about love, they talk about kindness, they talk about compassion. They try to reach out to someone and make a difference. Whereas we Indian Hindu leaders, we set ourselves in certain brackets that if a girl who had probably got pregnant and got kicked out of her home and she becomes unwanted, she's an outcast. Whereas
Right.
Christianity will go to that child, pick her up and make her somebody that belongs to the faith.
Right.
And one of the key success we need to look is to love, kindness and compassion, that where we can win human heart. And that way Christianity has been offered at a national level in Guyana and many other countries is about their love, their kindness and their compassion.
Now, I mean, suicide can hit any
Anyway.
religion. It could be Christian, Hindu, Muslim. It can hit any religion, any creed, any color. Now, I mean, so you are actually the younger one out of the group, and of course with sadhana, progressive Hindus. Now, when we think about suicide, it's somewhat taboo when it comes to Indian people, the Indian culture and the Indian population. I know you're also religious, I know you're Hindu. Now, considering where the older generation will say this is taboo, and the younger generation may be more free to talk about this, how can you incorporate this, or your organization incorporate talking about suicide in the temples or in the mosques or in the churches?
Well, I think that a lot of these discussions have to come from the young people.
Right.
Because like you said, the generation before us can be conservative. There are certain issues that are taboo, suicide being one of them. I get at those in the older generation for some things, one of them being ignorant of others' emotions. And I think it's important for us to focus, yes, school is important, and yes, succeeding is important, and yes, young people make mistakes. But why are we making these mistakes? Where does it stem from? We need to have that discussion. We need to talk about feelings. Mm-hmm. And it's hard sometimes to talk about feelings, to get at the core, at the crux of why suicidal attempts occur. Mm-hmm. But I think it has to come from the young people as well as our religious leaders, because who better to connect with those who are suffering inside internally than those than their peers themselves. So I think a discussion needs to be had in the younger community, but also we need to have the backing of the older generation as well.
Now,
if I can jump in here, Lakshmi, actually, our program is multifaceted, and one facet of it is outreach to the mandirs. We've already started this. 2 weeks ago, I was at the Shanti Bhavan Mandir, Pandit Manoj. Mm-hmm. They were very receptive, and they've already started collaborating with us. They've introduced discussions about suicide and also social issues in their classroom. They do classes and all that kind of stuff. And I'm already talking to a couple of other Pandits to get into those mandirs as well. And I would welcome Sadhana and Panditji and others to join me in this work. Maybe once or twice a month we'll be able to visit the mandir and have these discussions and hopefully begin to impact change here as well.
Excellent. Now, Anand, I know your background is in education. And when we're talking about suicide, I know in New York City, in the United States of America, all the schools have therapists or counselors or someone you can go and talk to. Tell me about what the role is in Guyana as far as the education system and if someone needs counseling.
Well, when I was teaching in the 70s, and I think the early 80s as well, they did have a system where, I'm not sure if all the schools, but high schools did have a teacher who was trained in counseling. For some strange reason, the government did not focus on that. So we're pushing the Ministry of Education right now, and spearheading that push is one of our board of directors, Dr. Faith Hardin, who herself is highly acclaimed in Guyana, and she's a therapist and educator. We're pushing the Ministry of Education to reintroduce that concept, as well as to provide mental health training for all the teachers at the college and all the students at the university. Whether we can succeed or not, we don't know, because they're not the easiest people to push, but hopefully sometime down the road.
Well, Caribbean Voice and you and all the organizations you're working with are definitely taking a step forward to this. So we'll hope to see something definitely come out of this in a positive way. But what we're going to do is we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to ask some more questions about the suicide epidemic in Guyana, and hopefully we can help at least one person.
2 months ago, after my mother's hospitalization, the doctors wanted to put her in hospice. And I'm like, you know, they deemed her terminal. And I saw Mr. Thakur, I think the founder, on TV, and he was advertising this Indian community in Kings Harbor. It's a great Indian community where my mother feels at home, and she expresses her happiness to me whenever I come.
I know when I come I feel happy. I stay couple and I see everybody and I'm so happy.
I brought my mother here like a month and a half ago, and I haven't regretted my decision. It's one of the best decisions I've made for my mother. It's a home away from home.
For all your special private and professional occasions, no event is too big or too small. We cover it all. Contact the professional source for all your party or special occasion needs. We have you covered at Star Party Rentals. Call us 516-239-2242. Please mention Let's Talk with Lakshmi for discount pricing.
Getting ready to plan that special day? Well, the most important thing is capturing that special moment. No matter what the occasion is, big or small, Digital Photo by Buddy can capture it all. For all of your memorable events, whether it is a wedding, graduation, anniversary, sweet 16, puja, baby shower, or 9-day, Buddy will do it all. Just call Buddy at 917-741-9876. Digital Photo by Buddy, capturing your memories. Please mention you saw this ad on Let's Talk with Lakshmi.
Welcome back, viewers. Well, we are here with members from the Caribbean Voice, Sadhana, and the Humanitarian Mission of New Jersey, Our Samaj, and we're here talking about the major suicide epidemic hitting the world, especially more so hitting Guyana, being the #1 country in the world with the highest rate of suicide. So guys, I'm just going to throw it out there. Tell me, what is the major reason for people committing suicide in Guyana?
Well, there are many factors we can talk about, but if we focus on Guyana, we're talking about Guyana right now. In my observation, most of the younger minds that has been committing suicide is getting involved into love affairs and getting pregnant at a very early age, no supervision of parents, getting pregnant at 12, 13, 14, already having babies. Most of the younger girls in Guyana have got involved in sex and become pregnant and found out they're HIV positive and end up taking gramazone. And there's so many various factors we can talk about in Guyana. For the past 5 weeks I was in Guyana, I have buried standard financial cost of 4 poor families between the age of 13 to 16 in remote areas that have committed suicide due to love affairs and rejection. I remember very vividly one of them, she got involved with a Muslim boy, and the mother said, well, before you get married to this Muslim boy, here's the gramazone. She said, give it to me, mom, and she just take it down her throat. Parents need to accept certain things, that you cannot make choices for your children.
So we're going to say love issues, #1.
Major.
Then poverty.
Yeah, because in Guyana, babies making babies right now.
Right. You know, I was go ahead.
I was just going to say, those are some of the factors that drive it, but if you're going to quantify the factors into concepts, one would be, as I mentioned earlier, lack of coping skills. 2 would be what we call lack of empathetic communication. But I'll give examples. If that mother had known how to communicate with that daughter, that problem could have been dealt with. So the ability to communicate in the right way seems to be a huge problem in Guyana. And as I said earlier also, suicide is no longer the last resort. It's a choice. So as soon as you end up in a problem, you choose suicide when there are so many other choices that you can make. So it seems breakdown of family is one issue. Ethical and moral values seem to have diminished tremendously, especially when I look back compared to when I was growing up as a child. And I'm sure Panditji can say the same thing.
And that's what I was going to say, you know, with parents growing up as a child, I mean, sometimes, you know, your parents, they don't really mean it, but they'll say, so they get mad at you and they say, why don't you just go kill yourself, right? And these parents are not thinking the effect that it has on the child. I mean, are parents in Guyana, you just came back from Guyana, are parents in Guyana still saying things like this?
Why not go just
There is
kill
a
yourself?
massive change in Guyana. I'm still trying to understand as to where this change really came about. And I just want to share something with our viewers. I was at the beach on Friday, August the 1st, Emancipation Day. And the most lawless thing that I have seen amongst our people in Guyana, I have seen it more so with our Indian mothers and sisters and daughters at the national level. If you go to these wedding houses, the Indian Hindu wedding houses is plugged by alcohol. More of the consuming of the alcohol is with the mothers, the sisters, and the daughters, and also you have the men folks that who consume the alcohol. But years ago, our mothers and our sisters and our daughters was prize models for that home and that community, so to speak. With the years of changes in Guyana right now, I would say some of the people break loose at a national level. There are no morals, there are no values, there are no cultures that left between some of our people. And more so, you will find that when you go through the remote areas and you look at life, it have really taken a drastic change. And I don't have all the answers, but there's a very sad state of affairs, and I do hope that leaders within Hindu, Christians, and Muslims will start to curb
But if I can add something quickly there,
Sure.
what Panditji is talking about really is a reflection of the political superstructure. What happens at the political level, at the government level, at the decision-making level, in terms of morals and ethics and general behavior, has seeped down into the nooks and crannies of society. So it's a reflection across the board. It's not just an indictment on the families themselves.
And I also think one thing that's common across religions and different categories of types of people in Guyana and the Caribbean is the music that you listen to. It's the entertainment. And so often the music is centered around things like alcohol or having multiple relationships. It's something that gets to everyone's ears. And one thing that I was really proud to see Caribbean Voice spearhead is Terry Godraj singing a song about awareness of suicide.
Right.
I think that pushes people to change their mindset and realize that this isn't the only answer to their problems. That being said, because the music is pushing things like alcoholism and like multiple relationships, you'll see it being a cyclical thing where domestic violence and alcoholism lead to suicide. So I think one solution would be to change the messaging behind the music, and that could also speak to what's happening at the wedding houses.
Right. So what are some signs of suicide? I mean, what should one look out for?
Reduction in communication. The person talks very little or talks too much. Either way, the pattern of communication is not what it should be. Two, the person seeking his or her own solitude, not wanting to go out and socialize and so on, or going the opposite way, just generally doing everything that he or she wasn't
So
doing
one
before.
extreme to the
One
other.
extreme to the other. Person suddenly dropping into friends and family, saying hi, hello, socializing, talking about wanting to kill themselves, talking about, verbalizing a lot, about not seeing a way out, about don't know how to handle this problem. There's a lot of verbalizing in that. Those are basically the main ones. There might be a few others. But generally, it's a change in behavior. And our approach is, if you see a change in behavior, no matter what it is, do something about it.
What can we do? Somebody's watching this episode right now and they realize their 16-year-old just broke up with their boyfriend. And she's not talking. She's home, she's crying, she's in her bedroom. What should this parent do?
One of the things I have found out in Guyana is that many international NGOs go into Guyana to do workshops on various topics and various stuff. And when they finish and they packed up and they're gone, when the victims themselves needs that help 3 o'clock in the morning, there's no one there to respond to that individual.
And it's interesting, you and I had a conversation. There is no number in Guyana to actually call right now.
And again, as I said, I made a promise not to get involved with race, religion, and politics, and I'm not here to talk on those three, but there's a massive breakdown that when the victim needs to have at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, there's nobody there to respond to that individual.
And I have to agree, I mean, on Facebook, I've had children, teenagers, write to me at 3 o'clock in the morning, Facebook me, and say,
I had the
"My friend
same
wants to
problem
kill
with teenager
herself."
pregnancy.
All of those
What do
is
they
society.
have to do?
Yes.
I called a Hindu pandit, a friend of mine, he said, brother, it's too late. I called a Christian pastor, and 45 minutes, the guy was down in Crabble Creek, took all of our hands.
So I want to talk about, go ahead.
One of the things that, you know, there's a lot of talk at the political level, but I'm an optimist. So I believe that at some point in time, the police commissioner saying that they're going to set up a suicide hotline is going to happen. I believe that at some point in time, he's saying that they will train police and they will go out there and find out the counselors. Ministry of Education has, Ministry of Human Resources has, there are a couple of NGOs that have. If you can find all of these people and set them up in a national network so that you get a call, say from Albion, because the hotline is going to be based in Georgetown, you can contact somebody immediately from around there, give that person an address, and that person is going to find their way home. Now, as I said, I'm an optimist. I'm hoping that will happen. Pandit Sugrim might be a little bit more realistic in that respect, but that is where we need to be.
I mean, considering Guyana's #1, I mean, thinking of something like the education system, would you not think that the government or the education, whatever it may be, someone should be sending counselors to each and every school, each and every grade, each and every class at this point?
Sometimes in Guyana, as I was there for 5 weeks, when the blackout is on, you have no phone system is already down. Sometimes for hours you may have blackout, 4 or 5 different hours. And during the period of that time, so many things that can happen. But again, as I said, as NGOs and many of the NGOs, we need to focus not only on the workshop, we need to look at avenues to curb the epidemic, that if we can pool our resources. I don't know much about the government, and I don't want to talk about this right now, is that if we can find persons that who is on a stipend for a small salary that can be in various areas to respond, to have shelters, to have places where you can go and take these victims and bring them into an institution. There's no institutions there right now. From New Amsterdam to Crawford Creek, maybe there's 1 or 2 NGOs that runs 1 or 2 homes, but from the government point of view, there is no institution. There is no system to set up that a child can say, look, I'm coming into this there now. Or I can pick Sad and start Sad and come and pick me up 2 o'clock in the morning. It's all lonely road, there's nobody there to drive. Where do you go?
Well,
but I think before we even get to that point, we also have to think about, like you said, education.
Key to success.
Across the board, we need to have sustainable change. And the only way to have sustainable change is to stop the epidemic from the very beginning of a young child's life, for that young child to realize that this isn't the answer. I mean, I've been told that the older you get, the more set in your own ways you are. But if we can get these children at in their prime and train them in the education system, Guyana has schools, and they have teachers there. 1 hour a week just on healthy relationships, on what it means to be a cohesive whole person and talk about your feelings and be comfortable with them. That's important.
I would tend to agree with Sam that the key to everything here we talk about, it comes down to education. I mean, domestic violence, abuse, rape, suicide, alcohol, drugs, everything surrounded. It has to do with an education system. And as long as you can start to educate human mind, you will lessen the sufferings right now.
So also education system, but one thing I noticed about Guyana as well is accessibility to things. When I was in Guyana last month, I was with the Nirvana Humanitarian Mission doing our annual work there. And while I was there, coincidentally, the program that we did was based around the suicide epidemic in Guyana. We did musical dramas, 8 shows in Guyana. And after our very first show, I got word that 3 teenagers from my village in East Bank, Little Diamond, had committed suicide that same morning of my Saturday show. Now, when I asked how did they do this, all 3 of these children drank rat poison. Why are these things so accessible if people are drinking rat poison? I mean, apparently they can buy it at any store.
Any store. The Gramazone, you can go to the store, carry a Pepsi bottle or a hot bottle or a rum bottle, and you get a pint of Gramazone and you walk out.
Yeah. And considering Guyana's #1, do you think that maybe this is something that should be restricted?
Well, we have addressed that in our program, but again, we don't make the decisions. What we're telling the government is, first of all, only adults can go buy this stuff.
Correct.
Secondly, the person selling the stuff should guide the adults as to what this thing can do and what it cannot do. Thirdly, when it's taken home, it should be locked away, secured, and the most responsible person in the family only should have access to that. Now, if you begin to do that, you make this stuff like, And gramazone and agri-pesticides and poisons are the #1 way in which they commit suicide. Hanging is the second way. Between those two, that's about 80% of it. So if you can make accessibility to that as difficult as possible, and in my view, yes, hide the ropes. Find a way of them not getting to the ropes as well.
It's really
see,
sad. I had a friend down there that has a store. His parents have a store, and he's opening up a second store. And he said to me jokingly, "Oh, I'm going to be rich because all I have to do is sell rat poison and rope." And I was like, "What are you talking about?"
You see, in Berbice and other areas, farming is one of the most essential stuff for these income for these families. And gramazone is easy accessible because it's an everyday. Sometimes you lock it up, you may leave it in a spray bottle that you spray the rice or the grass, and then just have to empty it. How much are you? It's about choices. That somebody in this crucial moment, somebody can be just to take hold of their hands.
And I
It's
think,
all about choices.
unfortunately, where there's a will, there is a way.
Yeah,
So we can do everything in our power
That's
to
right.
reduce accessibility, but someone in the dire state that they're in will find another alternative. So I think, again, that's why sustainability is key here, and changing the minds of those, really getting into their emotionality is important.
I want to get back with you to the education thing. The Ministry of Education has a program they tell us they're implementing in school. Family and health and life. And we suggested to them that issues like domestic violence and suicide should be included in that program. The teacher should be trained to be able to handle those. And if you start, as you said, in the schools, and then you make this part of the curriculum. So they're doing essays, they're doing poems, they're doing posters, they're going out and you know, it becomes part of their consciousness. By the time they move into the adult world, they have a different mindset and they look at these things differently. But again, all we can do is make it. We can do what we can do, but some things we can't do. We can only suggest to the people who have the authority and the power to do it.
What I can say as an NGO going into Guyana is very difficult. It's not easy. I know you've been going to Guyana for the past couple of times. To run an NGO in Guyana or to get involved in Guyana is not something that is that easy, and especially when our base is here in North America. People in Guyana have to start to take responsibilities. We can only do this much as NGOs here. Sadna may go for a week or a month, and so him or any one of us, at the end of that month, we have to come back to our home and our families there. And what you find most of the time that when we finish with the period of our time, when we walked away, everything just go back to sleep.
Go back to norm. Go back to the norm.
Go back to the norm. People in the community, and this is my personal finding because I'm very interactive in Guyana, they're very selfish. As I've said in the national television in Guyana, we need to be our brothers and our sisters' keepers. We need to go back to the old golden days. As we say in New York, you see something, say something.
Exactly.
It's everybody's business. Domestic violence is beating child. It's not my business. I lock my door and I'm gone. No, it is your business.
It's everybody's business.
Because when a child commits suicide, it affects everybody into that community. I went to many funerals of a mother, 12 years old, live in a shack, no money, even to bury this dead. You got to see some of these things.
Well, guys, there's just so much that we could talk about. You know, we just touched upon the suicide epidemic in Guyana. I mean, I'd love to have you back on and to talk more about what the Caribbean Voice is doing, where you're going to be with these programs that you're instilling in Guyana. I just have to thank everybody for coming on the show today and, you know, talking a little bit about the epidemic that's going on in Guyana. And if you just want to add anything else before we wrap it up, you can.
Well, your viewers, the people who are going to see this program, they have connections back home. They've got neighbors, they've got relatives, they've got friends. A lot of them probably go back home on a regular basis. My appeal is to them. Take what you can from this, stay in contact with those people, try to educate them, try to enlighten them, stay in contact with those close to you, help them to understand that there are things they can do and they need to start doing these things, because it starts with one person, and then a neighbor, and then somebody else, and then one village and another village. But it has to start somewhere. And I think your viewers are the people who can begin to catalyze this. So I hope that, you know, this would impact them, that their consciousness that way.
Well, guys, thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode of Let's Talk with Lakshmi, where we interviewed Mr. Anand Butram from the Caribbean Voice. We also had the beautiful Amita Kilwan join us from Sadhana, and of course Pandit Sugram from the humanitarian mission of the Arya Samaj of New Jersey. We touched upon the suicide epidemic in Guyana. Guys, if you're watching this episode, please do look out for the signs. This epidemic is hitting around the world, everywhere. It doesn't matter what color
what religion, what creed you are. It can affect anyone. So please do look out for the signs. And sometimes it just takes someone just saying, I love you, or how can I help, or just talk to me. And believe me, you can save a life. I'll see you guys all next week, same time, same place. It's a date. Let's talk.
Hello Guyana, my name is Lakshmi Singh from the Let's Talk with Lakshmi TV show, and I'm here to talk to you all about the very serious case of the suicide epidemic that's going on in Guyana. I spoke with Mr. Anand Budram, who is the CEO of the Caribbean Voice, a few days ago, and he brought to my attention that in 2014, Guyana has been rated the #1 Caribbean country in the world with the highest rate of suicide. I was completely shocked, lost for words, to know that the country that I was born in has such a serious case when it comes to suicide. Those of you who are watching this clip right now and saying, yeah, I know someone that committed suicide, or yeah, I know someone who attempted suicide, please don't sit back. Be the person that helps. If you yourself is experiencing thoughts of suicide, or thinking that there's no other way and you don't know what to do except to maybe go this route, I'm here to tell you, it's not worth it. It's not worth taking your life. And I'm here to tell you that after every storm, there is a rainbow. Believe me. I know you're home, sitting back, looking at this clip, and maybe thinking that Lakshmi doesn't know what she's talking about. But let me tell you, I promise you, there is a better tomorrow. And if you're not strong enough at this point to think about yourself, think about your family. Think about the other lives that you will affect. I've heard that in Guyana, many people are taking their lives because of relationships. Let me tell you, someone else's life is not more valuable than yours. Do not take your life because maybe your relationship did not work out. It really is not worth it. Sometimes we suffer in work, jobs, and family, and education. There's stress all around the world. But let me tell you, there is help. You can reach out to the hotline number. You can call. You can talk to a friend. Talk to your teacher. Talk to your wife. Talk to your husband. Talk to your mother. Talk to your father. Talk to us here at the Caribbean Voice. Remember, before you take your life, know that your life